Welcome to Outside the Box. Hello, I'm your host, Jarv, and welcome to Outside the Box. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out our video, A Better Political Compass. Many Americans and people all over Western civilizations, all across the social, political, ideological spectrum, are waking up to the realization that the Democratic Party is still and has always been the party of originally overt and now much more covert racism and intolerance. From the founding of the party for the purpose of keeping slavery going alive and well, to the formation of the KKK, the policies that directly targeted and negatively impacted the Black American subgroups and other minorities in the 60s and later, to the punishing of Asian Americans in universities for just being Asian. While that last part is not specifically the Democrats' fault, it is an effect of the greater movement, a movement left, to use the colloquial term, which is inspired by and directly formed into existence by the university establishment of postmodernist professors. Postmodernism is built upon the foundation of Marxist ideology. Well, that's quite a mouthful, and perhaps you disagree with it all, in which case I suggest you do your own research about the Democratic Party and the postmodernist movement, both over the last 70 years or so, and also the potential Soviet-Russian influence of it all. Whether or not you are aware of the current condition of the Democratic Party and the left in general, the media's involvement in vilifying the only other viable party, the Republican Party, as being a party of racists and homophobes, regardless of the ever-growing number of all kinds of people of ideologies, beliefs, and orientations being absorbed by the Republican Party and the right in general, is clear. I would go as far as to say that in fact there is no far right, or alt-right as they love to call it, anymore. Only far left. And it just so happens to be that everything to the right of that is very, very far away. Which is evidenced by just about the only alt-right individual of prominence in existence being about as harmful to the ideological trends as a dead meme. Which is soon almost completely forgotten in the meme-sphere. Instead, you have a bevy of people across the entire social, political, ideological spectrum who are called alt-right by the mainstream establishment media, the original ethos of the 20th century, if you will, regardless to the words they say, their own merits, or their stances on social political issues. They're simply branded alt-right as a way of shutting down their discussion with them or people from following them. Okay, so here I have a 2D representation of the cultural shift, more so than the political left-right array. However, it does emphasize what I'm saying about how just about everyone to the right of the far left is very, very far away. This isn't based on any group of studies. It's more of an amalgamation and guesstimation of my own findings and data absorption. I ask you, what does a gay central liberalist, a black Christian conservative, a libertarian Jew all have in common with Richard Spencer? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what they do have in common with each other, though, I mean, other than the fact that all those people breathe oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, they are all not far left. They all exist over here, somewhere. That brings us to the 21st century, and more specifically to the year 2020. Treyarch, a game development studio owned by Activision, considered to be one of the largest AAA games and entertainment industries, it showcases a bit of actual history about the Soviet and American standoff we collectively and historically call the Cold War.
Understand what's going on around you. You are in a state of war, and you have precious little time to save yourself. It's a slow process, which we call active measures. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. With a violent change of power, structure, and economy, period of normalization. This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. The disaster is coming closer and closer. The danger is real.
The man on the television was Yuri Bezmenov, an actual former KGB Soviet intelligence operator who warned the United States in the mid-1980s of possible Soviet interventions and how the United States could fall to a Marxist regime.
Purpose of the originator of subversion. So we have religion, we have education, we have social life, we have power structure, we have labor relations, unions, and finally we have law and order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? These are the areas of application.
If this came out 10 years ago, nothing much would be thought about it. It would simply look as if it were a historically ambiguous yet fairly accurate portray of an American perspective of the Cold War. It didn't. And today, whether intentionally or not, it shows a support of, or an attempt to follow a assumed trend of American patriotism and the general awakened stance that stands against the false prophets of the woke far left. Now, of course, Activision is not actually politically aligned in the culture wars. They are simply looking and operating in a way to maximize profit. Yet, this is the second case in recent history of a AAA game developer going against the woke, money-grabbing trends to appeal to an ever-increasing group of video game purchasers and otherwise consumers on the right, or who are perceived to be on the right, while still satiating the assumed majority of gamers that exist in the middle. This demographic shows the split and how the middle will likely buy games regardless of the culture war stance or stances. Now, with the majority of opinionated gamers are on the awakened side, not as the game media would suggest, because they're all racist and anti-female, yet because the very nature of gaming is a far more libertarian capitalistic hobby. Period.
Of subversion. What it means exactly? In case of religion, destroy it, ridicule it, replace it with various sects, cults, which bring people's attention. Faith, whether it is naive, primitive, doesn't really matter. As long as the basically accepted religious dogma is being slowly eroded and taken away from the supreme purpose of religion, to keep people in touch with the supreme being, that serves the purpose. Therefore, replace it, accepted, respected religious
organizations with fake organizations. Distract people's attention from the real faith and attract them to various different faiths. Education. Distract them from learning something which is constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, natural food, home economy, your sexuality.
The first time was also an Activision published game called Call of Duty Modern Warfare. That, in contrast to the blatantly obvious movement of electronic arts to cater to the woke demographic, as opposed to, and at the expense of, nearly the entire opposite area of awakened gamers, as shown by their sales for Battlefield 5. Okay, what does this all mean? It should be clearly obvious to us all by now that the current state in the culture war represents a slight shift from the postmodernist movement to the left to a new and improved central-right awakened and grey-pilled population. What is the grey pill, you say? Well, that is a topic for another video. Yet the culture war is only part of the battle.
Bureaucratically controlled bodies. Instead of social life and friendship between neighbors, establish social workers institutions. They're people who are on payroll of whom? Society? No. Bureaucracy. The main concern of social workers is not your family, not you, not social relations between groups of people. The main concern is to get the paycheck from the government. What will be the result of their social work doesn't really matter. They can develop all kind of concepts to show to the government and to the people that they're useful. Okay.
There are two factions in this culture war of the West. And make no mistake, it is very politicized, whether or not it should be. Regardless, it seems one side, the woke postmodernists, are hell-bent on the systematic deconstruction and transformation of Western civilizations into something else, whether that's a Marxist-based system of governance, society, and trade, or something new. It is still unclear what the penetration of postmodernist ideas at every level will in fact result, whether it be a complete Marxist revolution, as Yuri suggested, or that it might be doomed to fail from the start. Either way, now is not the time to play silent, to sit up upon the fence and say, that's just the universities, it doesn't affect me. Let my children take their liberal arts schooling and graduate without anything that is employable. They'll learn their lesson. It turns out that there are severe consequences for staying silent and apathetic to the sequential indoctrinations of 3 generations. The Xers, the Millennials, and the Ys. It turns out that the Zs, or otherwise known as the Zoomers, as some would like to call them, are the most awakened generation yet.
Which are traditionally either elected by people at large or appointed by elected leaders of society, are being actively substituted by artificial bodies. The bodies of people, groups of people, whom nobody elected. Never. As a matter of fact, most of the people don't like them at all.
Or awaken to the realization that the very principles of the classically liberal Western civilizations and the principles that made these countries the most successful, free, and just civilizations in all recorded history of the civilizations of Earth, and stand up to oppose the invasion of Marxism and postmodernism and its many elements that seek to deconstruct everything about society, culture, country, and freedom. If you wait too long, a side will be chosen for you, and it may not be the one you prefer or can live with. And as always, I recommend you do not simply take my words exclusively. Instead, do a bit of not so light research into the postmodernism, its core elements, among of, but are not limited to, the following: intersectionalism, victimhood, identity politics, third wave feminism, body positivity, fourth wave feminism, Marxism, both classical and the new wave of Marxism, so-called such as social democracy, and, of course, so-called social justice, straight from the mouth of Yuri some 40 years ago. And of course, the ever-increasing focus of the effects on global warming and climate change that the industrialized world has had, with the complete disregard to the natural climate seasons. Okay, that's a whole other thing.
And yet they exist. One of such group is media. Who elected them? How come they have so much power? Almost monopolistic power on your mind. They can rape your mind. But who elected them? How come they have a nerve to decide what is good and what is bad for the elected by you, president, and his administration? Who the hell are they? Spiro Agnew, who was hated by the liberal left, called them a bunch of enfeebled snobs. And that's exactly what they are. They think they know. They don't. The level of mediocrity. In a big establishment like New York Times, Los Angeles Times, major television network, you don't have to be excellent journalist. You have to be exactly a mediocre journalist. That's easier to survive. There's no competition anymore. You have your good, nice income, $100,000 a year. That's it. Whether you're better or worse doesn't really matter anymore. As soon as you're smiling, no more competition. Power structure slowly is eroded by the bodies and groups of people who do not have neither qualification nor the will of people to keep them in power, and yet they do have power. Together with that, there's another process. Law enforcement, law and order organization and structure is being eroded. For the last 20, 25 years, if you see old movies and new movies, you can see that in new movies, a policeman, an officer of the United States Army looks dumb, angry, psychotic, paranoid. A criminal looks nice, kind of, well, he smokes hash and shoots the whatever drug, but basically he's a nice human being. He's creative. And he's unproductive only because society oppresses him. Whereby a general of Pentagon is always, by definition, a war maniac. A policeman is a pig, rude policeman. He abuses his power. You know? A generalization like that. People suffer from that strike because economy now is interdependent. It's intertwined like one body. If previously steel workers, say 100 years ago, could strike and nobody would suffer, now it's impossible anymore. If a garbage collector strikes today, the rest of the multi-million city is stinking. I mean, there's no more service. In Quebec, for example, we had the electricians who were on strike in the middle of winter. You can freeze your bottom, and they still were on strike.
That's it for now. Thanks for watching. And like, comment, and subscribe, or check out our website to support us at Outside the Box. And have a good culture war experience. Stay safe, think for yourself, and live free.
Did they catch up with the salary? No, they lost. Who benefited? The leaders of trade unions. What is the motivation for strike? Improving of a workers' condition? No, obviously it's not. Then what is it? Ideology.